What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Real Estate Moguls. My name is Findlay-Shirras, and on today's show, we have Mike Peregrina, co-founder and CEO of Homey.com, a venture-backed, tech-enabled brokerage where buyers and sellers of homes can meet without a middleman or high commission fees. It's a really innovative and disruptive brokerage model with some technology to make it easier. It's a flat fee business model, and we are going to dive into his platform today. But I want you to know that prior to Homey, he was in investment banking and venture capital with experiences in software, hospitality, consumer products, retail, gaming, and more, which I think can help a person create a new brokerage model for the future. He is an expert in financial modeling, and if you understand his business model, that is a skill you definitely need to have. So let's get started and get to know Mike and Homey. Thanks, Mike, for being on the show.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
So, for those who don't know what Homey is, kind of give people the story of who you are and what Homey is.
Yeah, so Homey is a tech-enabled brokerage. We're building an end-to-end solution. So we help people buy homes, sell homes, get a loan. We just acquired a title business. We have the closing process there. And then we're also working on homeowners insurance. And we want to add a marketplace of services. So any service that you need before, during, and after the transaction, we want to have that one platform for you.
Why did you start this?
So the origin of the story actually starts in Las Vegas. So moved from LA in about 2001 and lived in Vegas for about 11 years. During that time, I was studying architecture at UNLV. Funny enough, we're actually in Las Vegas now. And unfortunately got caught up in the subprime crisis. So we were buying homes 2 at a time, stated income, no money down, 1 year, 2 year arms. If you've seen the movie The Big Short, you know exactly where I'm going with this. So unfortunately got caught up with that. 2000 came and went and wiped me out completely. And as I look back in the transaction, and still to this day, unfortunately, and this is why Homey exists, the consumer is not at the forefront of that transaction. It's all about lining the pockets of the agents and loan officers, et cetera. And I unfortunately got the short end of that stick. And then in 2008, woke up one day and I said, had this epiphany. I said, this is my mission in life to do it. And then decided to go back to college, went back to study finance this time. Then, as you mentioned earlier, started my career in finance as an investment banker. Did that for almost 2 years, which was a wonderful learning experience. I do it for free if I had to go back and do it, and it's kind of where I am today. And then got bit by the love bug, met my wife. She's from Utah, got married, moved to Utah, and worked in venture capital for a couple of years, which was another wonderful learning experience. And then I got together with Johnny and Mike T and started the business.
So you guys are venture-backed?
We are. Yeah.
How much money have you raised to date?
Not enough. We think that we'll continue to raise capital over time. This isn't a solicitation by any means, but we feel like there's an opportunity that's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We want to make sure we're well capitalized to continue growth and continue growing.
A lot of startups who are listening want to raise capital, and you've been on the VC side and on the startup side. For Homey, why do you think VCs invested? Was it the idea, the opportunity, the team, a combination of it? So what was that story you pitched that made them invest? And what are some tips you have for startups?
Yeah, I think that all the things you mentioned, right? Team and total addressable market, the opportunity to disrupt a multi-billion, $225 billion industry in the United States and growing almost 6% year over year for the last 10 years or so. And it seems like there's no slowdown in sight. But I think the team, I think Johnny has a lot of great experience building a real estate software business, which is interesting. And Mike Trianfo, our CTO and co-founder, same thing. He was there for the first X years of that business, and then went on to lead development for Domo, a business intelligence platform. And then my background and sort of unique story as a consumer. This business is really personal for me. And I think everyone around the business at Homey really understands that there's an opportunity to really delight the customer first and foremost. And then, oh, by the way, we're going to save you life-changing amounts of money, right? So if you think about other businesses that have been around for 20 years, some of them, don't even own 1% of the market, right? So I don't think it's a winner-take-most or winner-take-all opportunity. I think there's enough pie to go around, and if you think about that piece and you want a small sliver, I think it really reduces a lot of risk, and the opportunity is really exciting. So team, I think, obviously super biased because I'm on that team. I think we have an amazing team with a lot of tried and true entrepreneurs, whether it's Joe Grover, our CMO, whether it's Vanessa Clayton, our VP of Legal, and HR, Jack Hanley, our VP of Real Estate Operations, and then our head of title, and then our head of mortgage. These people are very committed to what we're building and really the mission, right? So,
what do you find startups do or don't do in that storytelling
Yeah.
that prevent them from raising money?
I think we need to do more of the storytelling, especially as entrepreneurs. There's always, you got to dig into the why. Well, why are you building this business? Why are you sacrificing every single little thing? And at Homey, my wife included in this, she's as much a founder of the business as I am. We're committed to fighting as hard as we can and sacrificing everything that we need to, and we have been for the last 4 years, because we truly believe that this business deserves the right to exist, right? One of the most important KPIs that we monitor at Homey is the savings back to the consumer, and it's now north of $44 million.
Really?
Right? That's real money back to these consumers, and they're changing their lives because of it, right? They're investing in vitro and having babies. They're paying off their student debt. Right, there's thousands of these stories behind every single transaction, and that's why we wake up every single day. So
let's talk about the details of Homey and the model. So savings, talk to me about how you save people money. Yeah. Is it through rebates? Is it just you're just not taking as much commission? Like, how does it all work?
So it's a little bit of both. So on the sales side, we just charge you $1,500. So in Utah and in Arizona, you can sell your home for $1,500, right? And then on the buy side, there's 2 ways we monetize. If a Homey buyer uses Homey to buy a Homey listed home, we just charge $1,300. That's it. So the Homey seller gets to save that 6%, or roughly most of that 6%. That's $25,000, $40,000, $50,000 at times, right? We do sell $1 million homes every once in a while. And then on the buy side, the other way is we do provide a rebate. So when a Homey buyer uses Homey to buy, and they buy a home that's listed with a 3% buyer agent commission, as they are in Utah and Arizona, we take that 3% and we rebate back to $5,000. So more than 50% of that on average. And then we just keep the difference. Sometimes there's $500, sometimes there's $4,000, but we happily do that for the consumer. And then obviously the loans product, and then the title and escrow product, and then soon home insurance.
So let's say an agent just chooses to reduce their fees. So they go to the seller and they say, okay, I'm not going to do it for 6%. I, as a seller, am only going to take 1%. And the buyer, okay, yeah, we'll give them 3%. And if they don't work with, your firm, then they don't get to save any money anyways. If the agents at a traditional brokerage like Coldwell Banker or whatever charge the same rate, say, as you, how are you still better or creating a different experience than the traditional brokerages?
NPS, right? Try to find any traditional realtor NPS online. Good luck finding it, and if you do, please share it with me, because I've been looking for it for the last 4 years. Our NPS is high. It's in the 70s sometimes, and as we approach summer and sort of the peak of summer in real estate transactions, it's holding, right? And the reason it's holding is because of our people. We have wonderful people that are committed to delighting the customer, and they're focusing on the transaction, right? So we've decoupled the transaction and have certain domain experts every step along the way, but our average agent on the sell side can do up to 150 transactions a year per agent compared to your 6, right? So they're domain experts on that piece. And then we're a software business, right? We lay down a foundation of software that allows the consumer to do a lot of the heavy lifting, and then also our internal consumers, which are our employees, to really do a lot of work, right? And that'll continue to grow over time, which obviously will improve margins over time. We love that the conversations are not happening, right? Like, the buyer agent isn't free, right? There is a cost involved in that, and the buyer is paying that directly from the home, right? And that's the conversation that we want to continue having and educating the public, right? And on the buy side, on the sell side, there's no way that anyone can compete with $1,500, right? We're doing 300 transactions a month.
How are you able to get it to that cheap?
Magic. That's the first and foremost. I'm just kidding. A little bit of software and scale, right? A lot of volume. When you start doing volumes, you get to buy economies of scale and improve your margins. And the other way is also adding revenue stacking, if you will, on the buy side. I mentioned we make about $3,500 on average, right, including the Homey to Homey transaction, and then the buy side, net of the rebate to the buyer agent commission to the buyer. And then the other piece is the mortgage business, right? And then the other piece is the title and escrow business, right? So by owning the transaction and really delighting the customer, we have the opportunity to have better unit economics by revenue stacking, right? And that's the end-to-end solution that we're building.
So what does your team look like internally? Do you have mortgage brokers and title brokers and agents?
That's right.
And what is
so they're all independent companies, right? They're all licensed in the right jurisdictions. They all have head brokers, and then they have mortgage coaches, right? So a buyer will get a mortgage coach. a buyer using Homey will also get a tour and showing agent, right? That their number one job is help you find the dream home, right? That's it. And they're really good at that piece, right? And then we have contract specialists, and you'll generally never meet them in person, but they're available. And you have one person that will work with you, and their number one job is to find, to help you buy that home at the best terms possible, including price, right? Price is just one subset of all the other terms. And then you have a transaction coordinator that will work with you and work with the agent with inspection, with title, and coordinating all those things. And if anything needs to be added or negotiated and adding addendums, then that's where the agent comes back into play, right?
Mm-hmm. So you talk about how an agent can do 150 transactions a year. Are you, because for agents to want to come work and be a Homey agent, where they're like, I'm making way less money per transaction,
Right.
do you guarantee a certain amount of transactions? Like, in order to make them feel happy and have a good income, how do you do that?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and that's kind of the misconception that happens in the marketplace, is that our average agent will make twice as much as the average agent. Twice as much, right? Our average agent will also get stock options in the business, so every full-time employee has stock options in Homey. We believe that fundamentally that's really important for us to happen. They also get benefits, right? That's on average $6,500 a year that Homey is paying out, and they're also W-2 employees, which is another tax burden, right, that we have to pay. But we happily do that because happy customers come from happy Homies, right? And those are our employees. And they get to focus on what they do best, which is the transaction, right?
Yeah.
Not door knocking, which you know a lot about, right? Not cultivating leads or nurturing leads and all this other stuff.
So how do you
they
do it
really
for
get to
them?
focus that.
How do you get them leads?
So we have a huge marketing machine, and kudos to our CMO, Joe Grover, because he's amazing at this, and he has a whole team behind him. And we do a bunch of stuff out of the home, advertising. We do a lot of digital media stuff. We do a lot of stuff on social. And our customer acquisition continues to go down, and it's got into almost double digits now, which is pretty exciting.
Okay.
Our LTV to CAC has gotten double digits. And if you think about everything that we've done, it takes a little bit of time. You got to prime the market. You got to continue investing. And he's done an amazing job. And we'll have enough time to talk about the whole strategy. But he's doing an amazing job.
Now, if the agents, because one of the things the agents did was they went out and they built their book of business, they had their database, they had their sphere of influence, they had their relationships, and that was their higher profit producing business.
That's right.
And if the marketing team inside your brokerage has to keep generating business for your agents, and the cost of marketing every single year goes up and up and up, how are you protecting against that?
So we believe we built a flywheel, right? We believe that one of our number one assets is our brand and our brand voice and the mission that we stand behind. We have almost a 50% referral rate, right? And we still think that there's a great opportunity to continue driving that up. And there's a lot of things that we're continuing to work on. So I think we've just sort of scratched the surface on that referral opportunity and ratings and reviews and all that good stuff. But as marketing costs go up, I mean, Facebook specifically, right? Our CMO has found a way to really, have pennies on click-through rates on all our content because it's extremely relevant, right? So as all these costs go up in marketing, our LTV to CAC and our customer acquisition cost specifically has actually gone down, right? So, and again, that's kudos to the team, the marketing team.
What is the Homey Loans Low Rate Guarantee?
So in the state of Arizona and in the state of Utah, if you find a rate or lower mortgage fee on the same loan, I will pay you $500, and I have yet to do that. So that's our price guarantee. So no one in the state of Arizona or in Utah will beat us on a refi or a new purchase.
And is that sustainable in other states?
Absolutely.
So what states do you currently operate in?
So Arizona and Utah.
And what does it look like for the future in terms of geographic expansion?
Yeah, so right now we're really diving in on the playbook, right? Expanding, being very cost efficient. For us, we don't feel like money is going to solve problems, and we can't spend through those problems. And we're being thoughtful in our approach and how we do things, and we think we're really close to identifying the playbook and then expanding to perhaps 10 new metro areas in late 2020 or whenever abouts that tends to happen. And we think that a lot of states are exciting. Texas, for example, Nevada, Las Vegas specifically, which we're here now. I think Southern California and a lot of the suburbs there are really exciting. Florida is really exciting. New York, all the big metro areas that we should be.
So how come, is there like criteria about these markets that make it better for your business model?
I think there's a lot of reasons, and we have this huge model that we spend a lot of time playing around with, and 17, 18 columns, all weighted differently. And there's a lot of things that we look into, but for example, the homogeneity in the housing asset, the home. For example, in Phoenix, 35% of the homes built since 2000. Right? Like more than a third of the housing stock has been built since 2000. So if you think about that transaction and the housing asset specifically, title generally going to come back clean and clear. Same thing with inspections and same thing with appraisals, right? Like ABC, all these tract homes, right? Seasonality is one thing we look at. The sheer volume of transactions. Phoenix has north of 110,000 transactions, right? There's enough of the pie to go around. And then, I mentioned seasonality. That's really important. Salt Lake tends to kind of shut down between Halloween and the Super Bowl, so there's snow on the ground. No one really wants to move.
Yeah.
But all these other things, right? There's other things that I won't bore you with, but there's a bunch of stuff that we look at.
Now, one of the flat fee, reduced fee discount brokers is Purplebricks, and they did really well in the UK, it seemed. Yeah. And they came to the US, really excited, and then they're all of a sudden gone.
Yeah.
And you have similarities in your model.
Yeah.
What do you think went wrong?
Well, I don't think there's one answer, right? I don't think there's a silver bullet to that answer, but that's case in point, right? You cannot spend your way through problems. I think the UK is very different than obviously the United States. I heard some things that the marketing strategy was the same as it was in the UK as in the US. And case in point in terms of real estate being super localized, that's what we've experienced in Phoenix, right? You need local experts to really dive into the neighborhoods and really owning the neighborhoods and really talking and speaking to that knowledge. And that's what we've done in Phoenix, right? Hired local experts that are, in Scottsdale, know Scottsdale, in Glendale, they know Glendale. The same thing with the Southeast Valley in Tempe and Phoenix. And that's really, really important, right? You have to really do these things locally. And I think that's kind of what happened there, right? They're just going to go try to, spend their way in brute force and spend a lot of money on marketing, and it just didn't work out. No,
everything is not sunshine and lollipops, as it has been sounding the last 20 minutes.
No,
what are the challenges that you guys face as you try to grow this?
Oh gosh, how much time do you have? Because there's a lot of them.
What is most keeping you up at night? What is most challenging for you guys?
The things that we've learned, the buy-side agent conversation, the buyer agent is free. In our opinion, the relationship between your traditional agent, which is your cousin, which is your neighbor, which is your friend, it's really hard to disrupt, right? It's really hard to disrupt. You see these people at parties all the time, and you kind of feel guilty into using them. And I think that's been the biggest takeaway for us is how do we really disrupt that, right? The other thing is when you enter new markets, the sales cycle is long, right? No one knows you, no one sees any homie signs, in front of houses yet, but over time, there's that social proof that ends up happening. And then technology, right? Technology is hard to build. You got to make sure that you're building the right thing. You have a general process, and that stuff is hard and it's expensive, right? Software is expensive to build, and you got to make sure you lay down some great processes before you start automating these things, right? And capital is a finite resources, right?
How do you find your agents? And tell me, what do they look like? Are they brand new people into real estate that you train and make great and give them a whole bunch of business, and they aren't so jaded by the old comp plans, or are they people who are fed up? Is it a mixed bag?
I think generally speaking across the board, they're mission-driven people, right? They know my personal story. They know the mission of the business. They hear the stories on how we're helping people and really changing their lives for the better, and they want to be a part of that, right? They really want to be a part of that piece. So that, I think, fundamentally, that's everyone, right? I think early on in the business, we had people that were that just had great attitude, great positive aptitude, all that good stuff, and they were non-licensed, right? So we got them licensed, got them through the whole process, and as we continue to grow, you need domain experts, right? So we have a lot of those on board now, and it's a mix, right? But I think it leans more towards more experience than before, right? And I think that's really important. Again, talking to the local knowledge as real estate is done locally.
Now, you guys have raised money, so maybe that's a way that you provide really great training and resources to your team to make them great and successful. But then in my head, I go, is that just an unprofitable business that just will eventually run dry? because some of the reasons, especially way back in the day, the major reasons why the brokerages took so much money was because they were like, hey, we're providing a lot of value. And back in the day, you know, the office and the training, all that stuff was a value.
Yeah.
But a brokerage needs to make a good amount of money in order to provide really great training for their staff and service to the consumer. How are you guys training and making your agents great and providing a service sustainably?
So I think economies of scale, right? Profitable unit economics and building a revenue model that's actually going to be sustainable over time, and margins will continue to increase over time. Great people, talented people. You know, our super smart head of real estate, Jack Hanley, said to me one day, he said, Mike, real estate training is a journey. It's a process. It's not an event. Right, so as you continue to build these systems over time, and one of our core values is disruption, is every 6 months it feels like we're kind of a different business. We're innovating, right, which means we're revisiting the way we used to do things before, and he's brilliant. So that helps us understand what direction we should be going to, and in HR, we're building a world-class hiring, training, and onboarding process that will continue to evolve, right? Every 6 months, things will change a little bit, especially as we go geographically, right? Things in Arizona, you know, the blocking and tackling of the transaction is generally the same, but it's the edges that are a little bit different. The nomenclature is a little bit different, right? Yeah. There's certain things that are done in Arizona that are not done in Utah, and then vice versa. And we'll just trim the edges, right? And we'll continue to grow, and we'll build a platform where people can come in and get training, you know, by job description over time.
Is there any technology you're using or a different way of doing the training that allows you to do it more cost effectively while still being effective?
I think the hiring process, although, you know, there's a lot of apps that we use, you know, Google Hire is really, really powerful, and it helps sort of bring in the people at the top that we identify instead of going manually one by one, right? The HR team has grown from, 1 to 5 or 6 people now, and probably within the last 6 months, because we've identified how to really, you know, automate or systemize hiring. And kudos to our VP of Legal, Vanessa Clayton, and she's been really working really hard on building that team. And having people that are great employee developers and trainers, regardless of you know, whether it's real estate or technology or what have you, to really create those systems that can help us scale over time, right? So there's a bunch of apps that we use, nothing proprietary that I think we're using those resources on the real estate side.
Okay. Now, one, do you think the economy is going to have a downturn in 1, 2, 3 years?
Yeah.
2, if you do, at some point, there's going to be a downturn of, I don't know what magnitude, I don't think no one does, but there might be probably something. A lot of people think that the discount, flat fee, lower fee models will have a very hard time in those moments.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Is there things that you're doing to make sure you get through that?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? Because this is asked all the time, especially when you talk to the market and specifically traditional real estate agents. What they have, the tendency that they have to say is, oh, it's good times, right? It's good times, you know. But then, you know, let's see when there's a pullback. So, you know, my personal opinion, and I look at interest rates, I look at the economy, I look at job growth every single week. As a matter of fact, my team gives me a report every Tuesday morning that I get to look at what's happening, right? And I think in the U.S., you know, the Fed is going to lower rates. Right, like they're getting a lot of pressure, although the economy is growing and GDP is rising, right? But I think we're on the backs of a 10-year bull run, right? Going on 11 years, the longest ever. So there's going to be a correction. I think we're 36 months away, or within 24 to 36 months. I think that when that happens, I think we're really well positioned to actually increase market share. And the reason why are 2 things. The things that we're doing is to get ahead of that is continue revenue stacking, right? Own more of the transaction, continue delighting the customer more. LTV to CAC, as I mentioned, is almost double digits. Those things that you do to build a profitable business, or at least have a line of profitability, is really powerful, right? Because then you can just turn off the growth engine and say, okay, we're not going to continue hiring. We're going to sustain now. And if you have profitable unit economics, which we do, that's where things really change, right? The second thing that we're doing is we're keeping our pulse, right? We're trying to go into markets where we feel like there's a lot of transaction, Phoenix specifically, right? So when that correction happens, and who knows when it will, right? Or if it ever does, but I think there's a lot of things will happen to make that happen. I think it's high single digits. I think it's 8% or 9% correction. So if you layer that over Phoenix, there's 110,000 transactions every single year, right? So we go from 110 to maybe 100,000, right? So that'll kind of give us a little bit of float. And then the other thing is we fundamentally believe when equity starts deteriorating, and then the rate at which that deteriorates, people are going to look for homie, right? Because they need all that saving, right? They're not going to give up equity.
What other when you think about more revenue stacking, other things that you have not stacked and added into the model that you think you might?
I think the marketplace, right? Any service, if you kind of take a step back and look at any service before, during, and after the real estate transaction that isn't core real estate settlement service, service offering, we want to be in, right? So you move into a house, you want home automation, you go to homie.com, right, /marketplace, and you look at all the home automation partners that we have, and then we monetize them, right? And then you come back every single month and you pay the bill through Homie, right? So we kind of engage you long term, right? With insurance product, you're paying Homie every single month, right? So think about home ownership as a service, right? So the core products is something that we want to do right away, right? And we're working really hard to make that happen. But the marketplace opportunity is really, really big, right? Like you look at Thumbtack or Angie's List or Home Advisors. I mean, those collectively, they're probably $10 billion in enterprise value.
Yep.
Like we can hypothetically build a $10 billion business that's not even the core business, right? And LTV to CAC will just be wonderful there because we've already paid that customer acquisition cost. And then lifetime value of the customer, our customer in our data is, almost 10% of our users are coming back to Homie and using us at least twice, and we've only been around for 38 months, right? A hair over 3 years. That's really, really exciting. So we believe that LTV could be 3x every 10 years because of our demographics.
Cool. How can people get in touch with you if they want to get to know you more?
Super easy. I try to make myself available to entrepreneurs and anyone that I can help any way I can with my experience, or even share the Homie story as we continue to expand. I'd love to. And super easy, Mike P at homie.com.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for being
My
on
pleasure.
the show.
Thank you so much.
As always, guys, if you want to stay up to date with the new models out there and maybe the new way that real estate might be done, subscribe to the YouTube show and the podcast so you can make the right decisions for your startup and for your business, and so you can be great in real estate. I'll see you next time.